If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 267 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on November 2nd, 2025, with yet another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Thank you. Fluent in Japanese, as always. But just like that, it is November.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that's right. How the hell did that happen? Well, how the heck are you, my friends? It is November after all. Cannot believe we're here already. November the 2nd. After the last time we yapped a couple of weeks ago, I did mention it. But I did just want to start the show off really quick with wishing a happy 7th anniversary to the love of my life, my fiancée Victoria. Today's our 7-year anniversary.
Yay!
Thanks, Gojo. Appreciate that. But yeah, so happy anniversary, Victoria. Love you very much. Just had to start the show out with that. Had a very nice weekend. But cannot believe it's November. I genuinely can't. I don't know how this year is almost over. It's kind of freaking nuts that we're almost in 2026. I look back at like how many years I've done the show now that 2026 is around the corner, like just a realization that I started the show sort of like a little bit after the 2019 season started, and we're about to go into 2026. And here goes Yapping Yankees still going strong, which leads me to my next point, which is a little unfortunate, but I have been mentioning it a lot in the past few episodes, so it shouldn't come as a total surprise unless you just zoned out while I was talking about this on prior episodes, which I wouldn't blame you for at all, considering I could have a gold medal in zoning out myself. Perks of having ADD. But anyway, I have been throwing around the idea of almost having Yapping Yankees sort of evolve in a way. And I've been thinking more and more about it lately. I am definitely taking this show at least into the first couple of weeks of 2026, the way it is now. So it will hit like an official 7th year, I guess, and there will be at least 270 episodes, so at least a few more episodes in this kind of format. But I have been teasing the fact that I would like to sort of transition over into sort of a live streaming format. I am still tossing that idea around. I would like to do it. It's just that some Sunday nights, especially with everything I got going on right now with my job and still studying and just the additional responsibilities that come with finally, like, being on my own now in my own apartment with Victoria and everything, like, just a bunch of things coming together. Sometimes on a Sunday night, it's been more difficult to pop out episodes, especially when I have a lot going on that particular day or weekend, which I've had a lot of since moving. So, I mean, it's been tough. It's been a bit tougher than it was in the past, which I'm still glad to do this show. I still very much enjoy doing it. That's why I don't want to drop content altogether. I'd at least like to do something that could save me some more time while still having a really good time, like live streaming. I think that's a great alternative. So I'm just tossing some ideas around. I still don't know which platform I'll do it from. I'm not too experienced with a lot of live streaming platforms like Twitch and a lot of other things that could stream to multiple platforms at once, like the social media platforms or YouTube and things like that. I got to keep looking into it, but I'm still tossing around ideas, but just a little bit more of an ETA as to when that could happen. I'm thinking of sort of making the jump and stopping this sort of format of doing Yapping Yankees sometime in January. That's what I'm looking at. Maybe towards like the middle of the month. So at least a couple more months of Yapping Yankees like this, although I'm still going to be frequently doing every other week. Once again, since it's the off-season, especially now. But just another sort of update on that sort of a front. I want to keep you guys updated on that so I don't just surprise you ultimately in January being like, hey, I'm transitioning over to another format. So, like, just tossing those ideas around a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. And obviously when I have something more concrete, I'll let you know. But yes, I do still very much enjoy doing Yapping Yankees this way. But exploring alternatives would definitely... It's a good thing for me. Getting some time back on a Sunday night and just... I think live streaming would gel more with me nowadays. Because live streaming has always been fun. Like a few years ago, I'm not sure how many of you happen to remember if you've been following me for a while. Then you might remember this. But years ago, especially when I had even more time on my hands, on top of doing Yapping Yankees, I sometimes did like an Instagram live or Periscope on. I would go live on Twitter sometimes and just do a live stream for like an hour, almost as sort of like a midweek check-in, sort of in between Yapping Yankees episodes, and it was a lot of fun. I'd like to get back to doing something like that, just without the podcasting part. But that could be sort of like an alternative sort of way of podcasting, like live streaming. That's something I'd like to do. So we'll see what happens. Keep throwing around the idea, but just wanted to sort of update you as to my headspace on that. But again, that's still at least a couple of months away from happening. So we will hit officially 7 years in the show and at least 270 episodes. Sad that we won't hit 300, but you know what? I have no regrets. I feel like Yapping Yankees has had a hell of a run. So many people who take up podcasts, and this is not to crap on them at all. Everybody's different and everybody falls out of it, or they get different interests, or maybe they transition to something else like I'm thinking of doing to live streaming. I don't know what everybody's individual story is. But not many podcasts, unless they make it really big, because of course that's an entirely different story. Almost nobody goes as long as Yapping Yankees has gone with the consistency that it had, at least before 2025, because the episode frequency was a bit all over the place, much more so than ever before this year because of how much I've had going on in my life this year. But this podcast has had a hell of a run that I'm very proud of, and I will always be very proud of, and even if it's transitioning into something else, I'd like to keep it going in that sort of format. But I have no regrets with Yapping Yankees. I'm very proud of my work on this. I may never have gotten massive. There are a lot of episodes in the past that got good viewership and got good attention. I've gotten a lot of listeners over the years, and a lot of people who've stuck with me through the years. Very little intimate fan base that I'm very proud of here. Very good listenership. Got a few people who I'm very grateful, who've been very loyal to me. And it's been a great run. I've enjoyed it every step of the way since I started the first episode right after I graduated college in like May or June of 2019 when I was 22 years old. And in January, I'm going to be 29. So on this show alone, and you might have been even following me on Twitter before that, because I got on Twitter in 2017 when I was 20 years old. So especially if you go back that far, you've basically been with me for all of my 20s. The vast majority of them, even if you want to just talk about Yapping Yankees on its own. So we've been through a lot together if you've been around for a while. Now, if you're just hopping on board here at the end, that's cool too. Kind of stinks because you're going to... But you might be a part of something really cool and new also when Yapping Yankees transitions to something more like live streaming. But still, if you've been with me for almost the entire time or most of the time or maybe the entire time, it's even cooler in that sense. It's really cool. Because you really have been with me through a lot of key moments in my life. Talked about a lot of huge moments with the Yankees. I mean, think of everything we've had going on since I started this show. How crazy the 2019 season was and how crazy it ended and all of that. And we went through the entire COVID time period. We went through all of that. I was doing Yapping Yankees for almost a full year already by the time that all happened. So we went through all of that drama with the CBA, between the owners and the Players Association, and what was to be of baseball at that point. And while that was going on, the Astros scandal of 2017 had come out around that time, if you remember. Right around that time, all the CBA drama was going on. It was a crazy time period. And going through what was that weird season, 60 games, and the playoffs, and oh my God, all that odd crap. And then 2021 with like the limited crowds, and 2022 and 23, the Yankees not making the playoffs. Last year, obviously, what that was, and 25 being what it was. All of the playoff chokes, or not even making the playoffs in the case of 2023, mixed into there. God, we've been through it all. We've been through it all together. It was a crazy, crazy time period. all the coverage that we've been able to have on Yapping Yankees. And if it transforms into a live stream, all of the coverage we'll continue to have. Just crazy to just reflect back on it and think all of the wild things that have happened in baseball overall, or even just to the Yankees themselves, since I started Yapping Yankees in May or June of 2019, and everything we've gotten to cover. And 2026 is right around the corner, just like that. All went very quick, like it always does. And speaking of going quick, I mean, how quick the friggin' season went, and how quick baseball just comes and goes. Like I always say, it's a 162-game season with exhibition games in spring training and a postseason to go along with it, yet it goes by as quick as any other sport does. And I cannot believe it has gone once again. Today is the first full day without it, so it's appropriate we have a new Yapping Yankees episode today with another off-season beginning today. Another off-season begins. It's crazy.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah, and it can definitely in some ways. But yeah, the World Series did just end last night, and what a World Series that was. I figure that's a good way to transition into talking about this because, I mean, I'm not going to go deep into it. The last time we yapped, the Yankees had obviously been eliminated, so we were going into the CS. So we just missed the CS and the World Series together since the last time we yapped here. I believe that was what we were talking about last time. But now even the World Series is over, and what a World Series it was. I am still without words about it, to be honest. I mean, it did only just end last night, so it's very fresh still. But even now, very, very speechless. I don't exactly know what to say about it. I guess I should start off by saying congrats to the Dodgers again. I wish I could say I'm surprised. I mean, I was surprised at how wild it was leading up to them winning and what it took for them to win. I didn't predict it being that thrilling and that complicated and complex for them to get there again. But the end result, I wish I could say I was wrong in this regard, but I wasn't. A lot of people weren't because it wasn't that hard a prediction to make. I mean, in a way it was because anything can happen leading up to the World Series and in the World Series. Nothing's a guarantee, especially in baseball. You never know what's going to happen. But myself and a lot of other people predicted this would happen, so in that case, I guess it wasn't too hard to predict. But as a lot of you know, I had been saying since February, March, that early on, around the time exhibition games were just beginning, or maybe even at the time when people were just reporting to spring training camp, early 2025, I was saying, I just think the Dodgers are going to win again. Even if the Yankees make it back there, they will lose again. The Yankees obviously didn't make it back there. The team that defeated the Yankees made it there to face the Dodgers again in the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays ended up going all the way there, and despite them doing everything possible in their power, playing near perfect baseball, doing as much as a losing team could possibly do without being ultimately successful, the Blue Jays really did all they could. And it still, at the very, very end, wasn't enough. The Dodgers still repeated, like I had predicted they would, and it was a bold prediction in a way, too. I guess this gives some credence to my argument that it wasn't that easy a prediction, too, because don't forget, we haven't seen a team repeat World Championships since the Yankees did when they three-peated from 98 to 2000. This is the first time in a quarter century this has happened. It's no small feat. It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. It's almost impossible, especially in modern-day baseball after the expansion and everything, and how competitive it's even been made more so with the introduction of the second and third wild cards, with expanding the playoffs. It's that much harder to make it there to the end and see it through to the end. It's that much more difficult. You even hear multi-time champions in Derek Jeter and David Ortiz on the Fox post games saying just that. Even back then, it wasn't easy to repeat. It's even harder now. So, congratulations, as much as it sucks to say from a subjective level as a Yankee fan after having to witness my team humiliate themselves against this team. But Congratulations to the Dodgers yet again. I wish I could say I didn't predict it, but I did. Said it many times on this show and on socials. But this World Series, regardless of the end result, was absolutely incredible. I do have to say one thing regarding the Dodgers, because it's just unbelievable to me how great he actually just was ultimately. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto, this guy is a freaking warrior. I have to say that. He is a dog. This freaking guy, not only in the World Series, especially in the World Series though, but not even only then, in his first postseason outing, earlier on, even as early as when they were facing the Reds, the Phillies, the Brewers, before the Blue Jays. I mean, the outings this guy had in the playoffs, really the only iffy one was when he went just 4 innings and allowed 3 runs against the Phillies on the 8th. Other than that, in that first outing against the Reds, 6 2/3, 2 runs, neither of them earned, with 9 strikeouts. And then the phenomenal pitching really kicked off from there, just putting him on a whole other level. 9 innings, complete game, 1-run ball on the 14th against the Brewers. Then in Toronto, in Game 2 in the World Series, 9 innings, complete game of 1-run ball. 4 hits allowed only, 8 strikeouts. Then, in Game 6 at Toronto again, these 3 starts at this point on the road, from that 1 start against Milwaukee and then the 2 with Toronto, all on the road. Even on the 31st, a couple of days ago, on Halloween, 6 innings of 1-run ball. After 2 complete games in a row in the postseason, especially with how amazing he did in each of those outings. First time since 2001, I want to say, Curt Schilling, that a starting pitcher has had back-to-back complete games in the postseason. Incredible. And then you factor in even another good outing on Halloween a couple of nights ago. And then on no rest. You want to talk about being a warrior. This gives a tip of the cap to the good old days of baseball when guys' arms were just made of rubber in a different time period where they didn't throw as hard and they prioritized innings over velocity and a lot of just things with old-fashioned baseball back to the old days, even just as recently as maybe like 15 years ago, to be honest. But it's really a good tip of the cap back to those ways of doing things. No rest. After pitching, what was it, like 98 pitches or something like that, around 100? The next night, yesterday, for Game 7, my guy comes out again late in the game when all other starters in the Dodgers rotation have pitched in this game so far. Ohtani started it, Blake Snell saw innings, Tyler Glasnow saw innings, and now Yamamoto, on no rest, comes out and pitches the last 2 2/3 of the game, allowing 1 hit, getting out of huge jams, and ultimately getting Alejandro Kirk, a huge clutch hitter for the Blue Jays, to ground into a humongous double play to end the game in the bottom of the 11th inning. Damn is right, Farouk. I mean, my God. It's insane. Insane what this guy did in the postseason this year. Last numbers in the 2025 postseason, ultimate numbers after all of that, 5-1 with a 1.45 ERA. A whip of .78, 33 strikeouts, and 37 1/3 innings. Warrior, I tell you. He even said after Game 6, I want the ball the next day if it's necessary and if they need it. He put his money where his mouth was. I was even saying if the Dodgers won, ultimately, in Game 7, that Yamamoto had to be the MVP. He had to be. And fortunately, he did. Because it was just, it was fully deserved. Between what he did in the entire postseason, but let alone even the World Series. Phenomenal in the World Series. Completely deserving of it. carried the Dodgers, and he is really. I mean, the Dodgers had a lot of guys who had their moments too, but I mean, my God, Yamamoto was right in the middle of it. He was there. I mean, he is quickly becoming, or probably has already become, honestly, at this point, yet another, and the latest, I would say, because Ohtani's obviously right there with him, but yet another and the latest of immortal heroes of Japan, honestly. He's got to be up there as well. He may not be a hitter, but my God, he does not need to be a hitter after what he just did. And honestly, as far as everything else, I'm not going to go really in-depth into detail because the Yankees weren't involved in it. Just general overview of everything that happened. And, just acknowledging the World Series. We are baseball fans, too, at the end of the day. At least most of us are. But Yamamoto being the main story for the Dodgers. I mean, Ohtani didn't really look too sharp pitching-wise, but he had his big moments batting-wise as well. And Muncy did himself a fine job. I mean, Miguel Rojas hitting that game-tying home run when the Blue Jays were 2 outs away from winning in the 9th inning. Who in the hell saw that coming? The guy hadn't had a hit in like a friggin' month. Oh my God. Just insane. So again, like guys had their moments. Freddie Freeman obviously had the humongous walk-off in that crazy 18-inning marathon in Game 3. Otherwise, he didn't do too much, not nearly as much as he did against the Yankees, obviously. That's not even close. But Mookie Betts, on the whole, didn't really do all that much, but he also had a couple of moments where he came through nicely. Will Smith, friggin' humongous 11th inning home run. He had some nice moments. So the wealth was spread a little bit, depending on the game. I mean, there were a couple of those games like the Dodgers losing 2 out of 3 in LA where they just kind of disappeared, especially offensively. But they did what they had to do. There were plenty of times in this series where the Blue Jays did look like they were going to be the ones who won, and they looked like they were the better team, but ultimately the Dodgers proved that they had the heart of a champion by doing what they did at the end of Game 7, capping off winning 2 in a row in Toronto. After they actually just lost 2 out of 3 at home, they hit the road and win the last 2 games, and in the fashion they did, they ultimately proved that they had the heart of a champion. Maybe performance-wise and on paper in a lot of different facets and with certain statistics with how each hitter did in each lineup. In a lot of ways, you could say the Blue Jays were better than them in some ways. But ultimately, sometimes it's just a matter of who has that championship pedigree and who has the championship guts and the eyes of a champion. The Dodgers had that ultimately. That's why they won in the end. I mean, to win that game, almost nobody. I mean, I really did feel like history was going to repeat itself, like how the Blue Jays won in the 90s when they won in the last game with a walk-off and extras. Like I thought that was going to happen again. I thought history was literally about to repeat itself. The Dodgers got it done. They hung tough. Will Smith went deep in the top of the 11th, and Yamamoto unbelievably got out of trouble in the bottom of the 11th by getting Kirk to ground into the double play. And Kirk is one of their more clutch hitters, puts the bat on the ball. Despite his size, is athletic, very athletic. Absolutely surreal. So they had the hearts of champions that put them over in the very, very end. But again, mentioning the Blue Jays, they have, because of the fact of how much good they did, and again, in some ways they were, you could even argue they were better in some ways. They truly have absolutely nothing, I mean this, nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, people have mentioned IKF's mistake with not having a better secondary lead down the third base line that could very well have made the Blue Jays win ultimately, to be honest. But otherwise, guys, truthfully, I mean, again, I mentioned it before. They played just about as good as you could play against what I just call a straight-up juggernaut in the Dodgers while still coming up short. They did as good as you could do. It just, sometimes something's also not meant to be. I've said this many times when the Yankees just go through these bouts of like, almost like they're battling like a higher power on top of having to battle the opponent. Like, when I've said that in the past? at times at the very end of this series, you did feel that way a little bit with the Blue Jays. I mean, the lodged ball, which I know has lots of controversy. I'm not exactly sure why, since it's a pretty clear-cut rule, to be honest. But, I mean, just another reason to show it wasn't meant to be for the Jays in some ways. It just wasn't. That was a good rhyme. Yeah, but listen, it went to show that. Just another reason why it wasn't meant to be. Like, that's not common to happen, for the ball to get lodged like that. And the Dodgers are a team to take advantage of breaks like that. They play clean baseball on top of it. Again, just hearts of champions. And when you talk about their grit and their way that they just never give up, I think a lot of other teams in the situation they were in, and don't forget, they had to come back yesterday. Bichette hit a very big 3-run homer earlier in that game. They had to claw their way back. They had a couple of sac flies. And then when they were down 4-2, Muncy hit a solo shot in, what was it, the 8th inning, I believe it was. So it was 4-3. They still had a ways to go. And then with 2 outs to go, I should say, in the top of the 9th, Miguel Rojas, who hasn't gotten a hit in a month, hits a game-tying solo shot to complete an unbelievable comeback in a Game 7 on the road, when you've had a lot of people pitching in that game, many of them, all of your starters pretty much, so who the hell knows where you're going to go after that, depending on how deep the game was going to go. I even told my brother, interestingly enough, if the Dodgers are going to win this, they're going to have to do it before the 11th. I don't see it going much further than that. I maybe see it going 10 or 11, and it went 11. But you don't really know what's going to happen on top of that. You're on the road with a pitcher in the game now who just started yesterday. Like, there's a lot of factors here, and I think a lot of other teams in the Dodgers' shoes would have folded, and the Blue Jays would have walked off, especially because the Blue Jays had a couple of jams that they put the Dodgers in between the 9th and the 11th innings. I think a lot of other teams would have folded in the Dodgers situation, but the Dodgers never did, and they never do. So in just some ways, between the Dodgers just never relenting, just hearts of the champions, and things happening occasionally that showed maybe it just wasn't meant to be for the Blue Jays. I mean, listen, it still doesn't change the fact that they played remarkable baseball, though. They really need to hold their heads as high as they possibly could, despite the heartbreak. I mean, I know that there's a lot to be proud of and to hold your head high over, but I mean, that's also from an objective perspective. I'm saying that as someone who doesn't have personal interest with either teams in this series. The heartbreak must just be unimaginable. Absolutely unimaginable. I mean, if I were a fan of either of these teams, I think this goes without saying. If I were a fan of either of those teams for a series like this, my life force probably would have abandoned ship. I mean, my God. I don't think I could handle that. Just being honest. I don't think I could. And if you're a Blue Jays fan, especially with all the surrounding facts of not having won since 93, it's been over 30 years, and playing as good as they did, you couldn't do any better without just winning the damn thing. To get that close and play that well and come up short, losing those final 2 at home and losing that way in extra innings, you literally could not get closer to winning a title without winning it. I literally even said to my brother, my mom, my dad, a couple of my friends who were watching, I told them while the game was still going on, it was like the 10th inning, and I think either the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, or both of them in one of the innings, between innings 9 and 11, I said, saw the trophy in half and just give it to both of them, man. They deserve it. They both deserve it. Just cut it in half and give it to both of them at this point. I really felt that way. So I mean this even much more so that when I say, because of all that, like, to come that close and to not win, I mean, that's probably the single most heartbreaking moment I've seen for any one fan base in real time than any other heartbreak I've seen outside of my own subjectively with the Yankees, with whatever it happened to be. But you get what I'm trying to say. Single most heartbreaking realization for any fan base after losing a series like that I've probably ever seen in my time watching baseball. That had to be incomprehensibly. I mean, I know Toronto fans, whether it be because of the Maple Leafs or anybody else, I know that they say that they're accustomed and they're used to heartbreaks, but that's like undeniably, this World Series is on like another level. You can't get closer than last night. You can't. I don't care what you say. You cannot humanly get closer without just winning it. So as much amusement as I have on a personal level as a Yankee fan in seeing the Blue Jays lose, I still can very much empathize with their fans, especially because of how much the Yankees have disappointed me in the playoffs for countless years now. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I have it worse than other fan bases. A lot of them have it much worse as far as having successful seasons and just making the playoffs. I just mean as far as coming up short in the playoffs. But I think I'd still rather... This is tough because it goes back to what Jeter says, like, how do you measure losing? Like, losing's losing. What does it matter? You lost, ultimately. He is completely correct. But, I mean, I think I'd still rather every single one of the Yankees' chokes and heartbreaks that they've dealt to me for years now, rather than dealing with what the Blue Jays fans just had to deal with. Because that is true. After what you went through the whole series emotionally and physically with your body somehow not just giving out during any of the games. I mean, you're talking about a series that split very excitingly so in Toronto to start. Then they went back to LA for game 3 and it went 18 innings. And then games 4 and 5, Toronto unexpectedly wins both of them. And then going back to Toronto, Yamamoto delivers another gem, and the Dodgers happen to pull out the win to force a Game 7. And the way Game 7 went, my God, how are you alive? Like, how are you actually still with a pulse? And then you have to deal with an extra innings loss in front of your home crowd in Game 7. That might be, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of Blue Jays fans just from an objective perspective as best as I possibly could, that might be just as bad or even worse than all of the Yankees' playoff chokes combined. And that's tough because 24 is a big one. 2024, the Yankees were in the World Series, so they were on the same level, and they really humiliated themselves. That's the stark contrast between the Blue Jays and the Yankees. Despite your heartbreak, Blue Jays fans, and I am not minimizing it at all, to come up short after how great the Blue Jays played and all that they gave, really tough pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, this is what makes it tough to compare, actually. Your team and you, once the heartbreak is set aside, you'll probably never forget it because it was really brutal. Once it's set aside, at least you can put your head on the pillow at night and say, my team played as good of baseball as they possibly could from a team who still ultimately came up short. The Yankees cannot say that about 24. They embarrassed themselves to within an inch of their lives. They are still responsible for the single most embarrassing half inning in the history of the World Series. I will still say that and dub that as that. It is the most embarrassing inning in the history of the World Series. They mailed in the end of Game 1 by going with a starting pitcher in the 10th inning who was coming back pitching for the first time in over a month from an injury, rather than a proven and trusted lefty specialist reliever out of the bullpen. They just humiliated themselves. They really, really did. It's very different, but still it's tough to play like the Blue Jays did and still come up short. So just because of the way the Yankees truly humiliated themselves in 24, I'm still not sure I would take all of the playoff chokes combined rather than having to deal with what the Blue Jays fans just dealt with, but you get what I'm trying to say. What the Blue Jays fans have just had to deal with is a heavy, heavy blow. But at least you know your team played phenomenally because they did. The Dodgers are just too much, bro. They really are. They're too much. You want to say it's because of the payroll and the talent they've been allowed to acquire as a result of it? You want to talk about how bad it could be for the CBA and leading into 27 and how we might not have baseball that year or for at least a couple of months or whatever, and how it will just give more credence to the fact that baseball needs a salary cap and that'll just make negotiations even worse. I mean, we can get into that whole discussion if you want, and that's more of a next off-season discussion because then we'll be right on top of that happening. Something to think about, but you can give it any reasoning you want as to why the Dodgers are just too much. But the fact of the matter is just that they are too much. If a team like the Blue Jays, as stacked as they were, even if you could pick out their faults here or there, yes, some weaknesses in their bullpen. Maybe their starting rotation isn't like that unbelievably powerful. Like Gossman didn't do that great, although he's a solid arm to have. Trey Savage is really the story in the rotation, to be honest. Shane Bieber was still just, on the uptrend from coming back from his injury. So, you could pick out where they might not have been as strong, but the fact of the matter is that they played phenomenal baseball, and they had a solid team. And even they ultimately, despite how close they came, even they could not take down the Dodgers. They're too much. They are too much. As far as ultimately what I think about the World Series as a whole, I have to say, except for, I was thinking about this for a while, just like the World Series that we've had for the last decade or couple of decades, except for 2016, which had the Cubs and Indians at the time also go into extras in Game 7 too. After a wild series, if you recall the 2016 World Series, that was the one when the Cubs finally broke the Billy Goat curse. And this one still probably slightly edged that one out. But except for that, this had to be, except for 2009 on a subjective personal level, obviously with the Yankees, this had to be the greatest World Series I've ever seen since I started watching baseball in late 2007. It has to be the best. And like I said, if I were a fan of either of these teams, I wouldn't have made it. If you're a Blue Jays fan or a Dodgers fan, whether you're on the winning or losing end, even if you're on the winning end with the Dodgers, if you're still alive after that series, your body is capable of a lot, and I envy you. I don't think I could have made it. Unbelievable World Series. Great. It's unbelievable. Without going into specific details as to what happened in each game, I think I hit on a lot of the biggest talking points and whatnot, but wild. And you look at a lot of the individual players and this, Kershaw going out like this, he went out really good, man. He had a lot of high points this year. I mean, he still had his outings where he was getting hit pretty hard, but better than the year before, if I had to say. And he had some successful reliever appearances, both in the regular season and the playoffs, depending. And he got to go out winning his second championship in a row, man. He got to go out that way, and he said that in his speech to the clubhouse last night before they popped the champagne after they won already. And it was a nice speech. He was just talking about what a great way to go out, and that has to be amazing. A great ending to a legendary and iconic career. A fitting end. Even if he always had his postseason struggles throughout his career, and I'm sure he'll partially be remembered for those, unfortunately for him, but one of the greatest regular season pitchers in the history of baseball. And still deserves all the respect in the world. And you think about it, he's a 3-time world champion. Some people say 2.5 because of 2020, but if we're all being really honest with ourselves, and I held myself accountable even then, go back and listen to my 2020 episodes if you don't believe me. Everybody was on the same playing field. That championship, in my mind, counts. Sorry if you disagree with that, but if you're not a Yankee fan, or even if you are a Yankee fan and you don't want to acknowledge 2020, it's time to come to terms with the objective fact that we were all on the same level playing field, all of the fans watching our teams playing the same amount of games under the same circumstances and whatnot. Everybody was on the same playing field, and because of that, as far as I'm concerned, 60 games or 162 games, that's a title. So I will say it full on. Kershaw, 3-time champion. Mookie Betts, 4-time champion now. Freddie Freeman, 3-time champion. Ohtani and Yamamoto, 2-time champions just in the last couple of years. Since they've repeated now. You got multiple multi-time champions on that team. Max Muncy also. Will Smith. Got a bunch of names you could run down on the Dodgers who are multi-time World Series champions now. 2+. They're a juggernaut, man. They're a juggernaut. And if this team looks the way it does next year, and if they correct any other aspect of the team, I know that they had some weaknesses out in their bullpen, for example, but, I mean, if their rotation's at the health that it was this time around, like, that's why I say the Yankees also really blew it in 24, because they really had so many injuries to their rotation last year and whatnot. Like, they had weaknesses to expose. This year is really their bullpen if you had to really pinpoint a definitive weakness by them. But I'm telling you, if 2026 comes and their team is mostly the same and in good health and they address the bullpen, hell, I won't hesitate to pick the Dodgers for a third straight year in 26. I won't hesitate. We're going to have to see how this offseason goes and see how other teams do things as well, because another team could rise up to the forefront and face the Dodgers down too, whether it be in the National League or in the American League in yet another World Series. But I won't hesitate. If I feel conditions merit it, I will not hesitate to pick the Dodgers to win, to three-peat. I will not hesitate. We'll have to wait and see. But overall point, again, unbelievable World Series. Unreal. Now, on to really what should dominate much of the show, but I spent a little bit more time in the World Series than I thought I would, but it's all good. Trying to keep the show a bit on the shorter side, especially because we're in the offseason now. No games to recap and nothing really that crazy to get into. Just basically analysis of the Yankees. Just briefly talking about some talking points that we're hearing early on here and some areas where we'd like to see the Yankees improve. I alluded a little bit in the last episode to what I'm thinking. I'll go over it again. I mean, if you look around at this team, I have my opinions. I do. At catcher, I made it clear. I think Ben Rice should get much of the catching reps, if not all. I mean, definitely not all of them. Catchers need days off every few days, but you get what I mean. Have Ben Rice do the majority of the catching. Keep working with him on his defense because there is still room to improve there. And his bat is going to keep developing. Look at the potential he's already shown. I want that to be in the lineup more often than not. So if that means catching most of the time, and even if not even having a full-on day off, if you want to just put him at first some days and have a platoon going in that sense, that's fine too. I want Ben Rice around, and especially if catching is going to allow that to happen more often than not, I want him to catch, and I want them to work with him on his defense. So there's that for starters. Giancarlo will probably continue to DH. That's fine. If you want to use him in the outfield at all anymore, work with him there. Otherwise, he'll probably be DHing. He'll probably miss some time due to injury again. That's the way of things. Whatever. You find your way around it. The Yankees usually do. And then when you look around the rest of the diamond, there are some changes I'd like to see made. I really would like to. It starts with first base, where I mentioned last week already, I would like the Yankees to look to Japan for this. I mentioned Murakami. I'm going to stick with Murakami. I also have the other alternative, Okamoto, who plays the infield like Murakami does. He can also even grab some outfield reps, but primarily an infielder. And he does check the box of being a right-handed hitter, unlike Murakami. The Yankees do need righties more than they do lefties, especially considering it does depend what they do with this offseason. Like if they bring Trent and or Bellinger back, that's more lefties. So it gives you more of a need for a righty like Okamoto. Murakami is a lefty. Okamoto also strikes out less than Murakami does. The strikeouts have been a point of concern for Murakami at times. So if that's a concern for you, which for the Yankees, I mean, I know that a lot of people would like to see them get away from high strikeout guys, so that might turn some people off to Murakami. But honestly, I'm okay with either one, man. They're both really, really solid hitters. Murakami's also coming off of an injury-filled season. Also have to consider that. But not only did he do everything he can to still salvage an injury-filled season and do a very nice job in the time that he did play, but if he's at full health in 26 and it is what it is, they're both expected to be posted. I think Murakami's already posted. I actually have to look at that and confirm that. But they're both expected to be posted. And listen, I think either of them could play first or third. Those are the two positions everyone always throws around that they could play. I know you got McMahon at third, but at first base, if Ben Rice is going to be doing a lot of the catching, and then maybe just Wells being his backup, and if Rice is not going to be getting first base reps in those cases, you got Murakami or Okamoto to do that for you. So that's what I would do there, and honestly, I'm okay with either of them. I really am. There are pros, and I think cons to them both. Murakami will get you more power, I think, and he's a lefty, so it would work out well in Yankee Stadium, but strikes out a lot and might get injured, especially considering the season he had last year. Anybody can get injured at any time. It's kind of a moot point, but you get what I'm trying to say. And then Okamoto won't give you as much power, but he'll strike out less. He does check off the box of being a right-handed hitter. They could both play first or third, from what I understand. Now, the risk of them going to LA exists, like every Japanese player, maybe except for Kodai Senga, and that's about it, has done for years now. That is entirely possible. I do not very much like Murakami's quote that he had when he said, "I'd like to go to the West Coast or the Yankees," because as much as I appreciate that he included the Yankees in that, part of me is worried that that means he'll use the Yankees to drive up his price, sort of like Yamamoto did to the Yankees and the Mets. I'm not particularly a fan of that, to be honest. But again, Okamoto's also another option, if and when he's posted, so it's not necessarily the end of the world. I'd love it if at least one of them broke the chain here a bit and came to the freaking East Coast. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, pros and cons to them both. I think they both have a lot of positives, and I think it'd be nice to have like an electric Japanese player return to the Bronx. I think that'd be really nice. We haven't really seen one since Tanaka. I loved Tanaka. I loved Matsui. A few Japanese guys I really loved. And they both seem to be high-energy guys, a lot of talent. I'd love to see it happen. Murakami is probably going to be more expensive. Okamoto's still really good, so he might still get a lot of money as well. But Murakami, there have been whispers of already him getting probably $300 million or so, which, again, if you've heard me say it before, you'll hear me say it again. Otherwise, this is the first time you'll be hearing me say it. I am not necessarily pro players getting that kind of money who have never played here yet. Not really in support of that. That's where the market's headed, though, bro. It just is, whether we like it or not. So I guess that's another pro towards Okamoto. If you could get him for less and you're still getting a very talented player who checks the box for the Yankees, and particularly of being a right-handed hitter. I'm okay with either one, though. So that's my take on the Japanese side of things. We'll see how that goes as the offseason continues to progress here. It's only just begun. I look at second base, and I'm constantly reminding myself that, listen, I mean, you're probably not going to get that kind of production, particularly offensively, out of many other second basemen like you did with Jazz. And like you have with Jazz for the vast majority of his stay here with the Yankees. The postseason is not really a part of that. The vast majority of his postseason experience here, he has done absolutely nothing, and that's worth of note. Unfortunately, you wish it wasn't, but that should be mentioned. And defensively and otherwise, he does stupid things occasionally. Sometimes he talks a big game and doesn't back it up. That's irritating. These are just blatant truths about Jazz Chisholm. But Jazz also does a lot that you don't feel you would necessarily get with many other second basemen in baseball, if any, really, outside of like Ketel Marte. So some things you learn to live with, and that's fine. So I'd be okay with him still. I mean, he's going to hang around. I think he's still under contract for 2026, or at least arbitration eligible. Yeah, he's under control for one more year. Exactly. So, yeah, he'll be around, and I'm okay with that. It's whatever. I just hope that he locks in a little bit more and maybe just plays a bit better defense. His defense is mostly good, but you know what I mean. You watch Jazz play. If you watch every single game of the year for the Yankees, you know what I mean when I say that Jazz just sometimes does a lot of stupid crap. He just does. Whether it be on the bases, in the field, or his approach at the plate, he can be irritating sometimes. He can be. But for the numbers he puts up in a lot of different ways, fine. Sometimes you put up with it. Shortstop, listen, I've been very vocal. I want them to move on from Volpe. I don't think they're going to move on from Volpe. Because despite some voices in the organization saying that they don't think that his shoulder, partial labrum tear, played a part in him being such a disgrace throughout 2025, I still think that some people are going to use it as an excuse to bring him back and give him a fourth chance. I've been over Volpe for a while. I'm sick of him being absolute crap 99% of the time. And then he'll go on these little 1 week or even just a few day spurts of looking like, oh my God, could this finally be Anthony Volpe? And then he just slumbers again for a month and a half until the next time he does it, or 2 months. Going 7 for 83. I'm tired by it, man. And especially if the defense continues to not quite be, and you saw much better defense in the playoffs. That was encouraging. You give credit where credit's due, always. But I mean, if you see the 26th season start out, if they nonsensically give him another shot, and you see the defense being anything other than really sharp, I mean, what the hell do you have to stand up with this kid for anymore? I mean, what the hell? What are we doing here at that point? I'm over him. I want the Yankees to move on from him. I know a lot of people are talking about throwing a bag at Bo Bichette. I'm not even saying I would hate that. It'd be very nice to have a hitter of that caliber playing shortstop. I know he's not the best defensively at times, but you know what? Whatever. Especially because of what's to come in 2027 with the CBA. There's a lot of arguments to be made from fans for a lot of their teams to just say, screw it, man. Go all in for 26. And it's tough to argue that. So if you want to throw a bag at Bo Bichette, you're not going to hear me hating on it. That's for sure. That's all I'll say. But people are talking about that. But whether it be that or you settle for a more temporary solution, if maybe you just, for the start of it, get Caballero to get most of the starts there. If you want to hold on to Ahmed Rosario, bring him back. I mean, that's up to the Yankees. Either way, I do not want to see Volpe out there anymore. Even if he goes to another team and has success there, then God love him at that point. Fine with me. Because the fact of the matter is, and the argument still exists with a lot of other players, like, oh, maybe they should have held on to them because they went to this team and they got so much better. Well, good for them. Maybe a change of scenery was needed, and you never know if he stayed another year on the Yankees. If he would have sucked again, he probably would have. Especially if you got all the evidence laid out in front of you to give plenty of credence to think why you do, about why it would or wouldn't work for another season in this town. I mean, sometimes a guy just needs a change of scenery. Doesn't mean if he stayed here another year, it would have corrected itself and the same thing would have happened. That doesn't mean that by any means. It's like the old logic when somebody says, oh, if Cashman left the Yankees as the GM, why would they do that? He'd get a job immediately elsewhere. Good for him. It's the analogy, again, when people say it's like the defense of holding on to an ex-girlfriend. Like, oh, if she hit the market, the single market again, oh my God, another guy would scoop her up in a second. Well, good for her. That doesn't change the fact that she's been a crap girlfriend to me. I mean, come on. So, yeah, I'm done with Volpe. I don't know how you feel about it. Let me know if you want. That's how I do. Ryan McMahon, he's probably going to be back. Some people have talked about him possibly getting traded this offseason, and it wouldn't be a big surprise if it happened. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if If he does, I mean, that's just another opening for at least one of the two Japanese guys to come over here and play one of third base and or first base. But, I mean, you could platoon that to a degree, too, because Ryan McMahon, we know that he can't friggin' hit to save his life. I mean, he was one of the half-decent hitters, a couple of half-decent hitters in the postseason, bafflingly so. But point remains, across the course of a whole season, we know that McMahon's not doing much of anything, if at all, with the bat. So that's a guy you could platoon, and you know he's going to give you fantastic defense, and he's under team control still. So you hold on to him, I guess. It's fine. It's whatever. And you got Judge in the outfield, and the outfield's got a lot of question marks this time around because they could bring up Spencer Jones, they could bring Bellinger back, they could bring Trent back. They could do a lot. And then you have Jason Dominguez, too. What do you do with him? Me, personally, I think they've jerked around Jason Dominguez enough. If they can't find a more permanent solution for him, whether it be in left field, his primary original position of center field, but you also want to make room for Spencer Jones. If it's just going to be another year of not really like square peg, round hole behavior with Jason, especially if it means you get something nice in return, I'd just get rid of the kid. Stop hindering his development because you can't find a spot for him because you just don't know how to manage a roster, or, you know, now it's time for Spencer Jones and you just screwed up with Jason before and now there's nothing you could do about it. It's Jones's turn and you just have nowhere to put Jason anymore, especially if you bring Cody and or Trent back on top of that. Get rid of Jason. As much as it would suck, I'd love to see the kid get everyday gameplay and continue to develop. He's still in his early 20s with plenty more to learn and do. But if you're just going to keep on throwing him to the side, I'd get rid of him. Honestly, that's my perspective on it now. And if that happens, fine, because I think Spencer Jones should be getting ready to, if not just starting the season, just on the Major League roster. A lot of it's very important. You see what happens in the offseason with the 40-man. That's really an indicator as to what could happen. But I think you're probably going to see Spencer out there, or at least you should. So Spencer and Judge. And then I would bring Cody back. I would definitely at least bring Trent back as another fourth outfield option at the very least. And then if someone gets hurt, or you never know what happens during the course of a season, then he could still be there. I mean, he just got off of a career year. He's probably going to get paid as he should. Good for him. Did nothing in the playoffs, but he still had the year that he had. A lot of people did nothing in the playoffs, so you shouldn't be taking it personally with Trent. You can take that out on a lot of people. But he could be back as another alternative option. I know it's another lefty hitter too, but it's another option. And I think he earned it with how he did during the regular season, to be honest. If I had to choose, I would probably bring back Cody before I bring him back. But still, I think you could manage to bring them both. Depends on how they intend on doing things with the outfield. How they plan on managing Jason or Jones, if they plan on bringing him up at least to start. We'll have to see. My ideal outfield would be Judge in right, Spencer in center, and Cody in left. That would be it. And I'd like for Trent to stick around as another option because I do not think that Trent could repeat what he did in 25 as much as I would love that. I think he could have another nice season. I don't think he could replicate 2025 again. I do not think. I think that was a career year, and it should be given all the credit in the world. Fantastic, and I'm glad that if it had to happen anywhere, it happened here. But I'd still like for him to be around as an option because the defense is such a big asset. The clutchness, a lot of people forget how clutch Trent was this year. If you look at his numbers in that sense, that's an asset. He's here a couple of years now. He really likes it. The guys around the team like him. These things have value in their own rights. A lot of people downplay that or forget it altogether. It's important to remember that. So that's how I would have it. We know to start 2026, we had a couple of pieces of news hit, and this should be mentioned. I mean, the Yankees are doing their usual coaching change nonsense as if that's going to do anything. I think we've been through this enough to see that it's not the coaches that are the problem. Maybe they're a problem, but it's not the problem, certainly. I mean, just a couple of examples off rip. Mike Harkey out in the bullpen, which is crazy because he's been around so long. That's wild to think about. But Harkey, is not going to be returning as the bullpen coach, and Travis Chapman, he doesn't have the first base coach job anymore, and so the coaching shifts are happening here and there, starting with those. But we also had some pieces of news hit with Volpe. I'll get to him in a second, but like with the starting rotation, like you know that Cole's not going to start the year off the injured list. He's going to still be gone for at least like the first month or so. We knew that. But it seems like there's going to be another one to at least start right now. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. The Yankees could get by for a little bit for like the first month or so. I don't think that's going to be that big of a problem. But they're going to be without Carlos Rodon for a little bit too. Apparently had a procedure done to shave down a bone spur in his throwing elbow. And it's going to keep him out for most of April next year to start. So there's that too. Might miss the first month or so. It's not too brutal again. So, I mean, you're down a couple already. I mean, even more reasons why, and this leads me to this too, this thought process. Being down a couple of guys already, we already knew Cole was going to be down for at least the first month. Even more reason why months ago when people were asking if Will Warren would have a role in the rotation. A lot of people were talking about Will Warren and not wanting him back or this or that. I said yes even before this Rodon news that he would have a part, since Cole is going to be out the first month or two anyway, and Clark isn't going to be back until at least 2027, in my opinion. We'll see if it's at the very end of next year, but I don't see the point of that, quite frankly, anyway. But time will tell, but Rodon will be down to start the year, so there's the rotation, too, so that's to consider, especially with this Rodon news. That's where I was really going with this. But, yeah, again, I think the Yankees' rotation will be fine. I think it's okay to be without those couple of guys for the first month and a half. Because when that changes, when they come back, I mean, they'll have their ramp-ups and whatnot, both of them, so it'll take some time. But when they're both back, we've talked about it, the Yankees are going to have a murderous rotation. Murderous, if everything goes right at that point. Between having Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schlittler, Heel if he's around. I mean, and then if Heel's even not around, then you have Will Warren around. I mean, listen, I wouldn't really do anything with the rotation. The rotation's probably the last thing. It's probably last on my list of priorities for the Yankees, to be honest, this offseason. Despite a couple of bumps at the very beginning. But then you look at the bullpen. Just when talking about what you do with the whole team, I mean, we could talk about in future weeks some specific options for relievers, but obviously the bullpen needs to be addressed. Again, I'm letting Luke Weaver walk. I just am. I think it was a nice story that has come to an unfortunate conclusion, but I think nonetheless it has reached a conclusion, and I think it's time to let go. So I let him walk. Bednar is going to be back. I think that's really good. I'm still torn on Devin Williams because he still overall had a bad year, and he was responsible for so many losses early on that cannot be ignored when you think about the final result of the Yankees season, where they finished in a dead tie with the Blue Jays. And even though the Blue Jays just proved themselves to be overall a far better team, so I'm not even really sure this would have mattered ultimately in the playoffs, even if the Yankees did have home field. But that kind of thing prevented the Yankees from having the best record in the American League, and these things make a difference. Sorry, they do. And Devin is massively responsible for that, given how many games he blew, especially early on. But you also cannot ignore the fact that for the better part of the last month and a half or so, especially playoffs included, which is very important context, he found it. So he's an enticing option, and because he's getting off of overall the worst year of his career, maybe you could bring him back at cheaper than you otherwise would have had the opportunity to do this offseason if he would have had a great year overall. So maybe you entertain Devin for another year. So that's a thought. A lot of other guys like Blackburn and Yarbrough, the list goes on. A lot of those guys you're probably going to let go of or just, let them walk or get rid of. But I probably in the end will decide to have the 8 and 9 be Devin and Bednar. But if you could just find a few quality middle relief options, I think that'd be really solid. maybe one other back end guy without spending too much money or investing too much, because you also know that I personally am not of the belief that relief pitchers should be paid a high amount of money. I'm not. So even just like a decent guy who you could add to that back end, even if it's a guy you find that it's just like a diamond in the rough, just a no-name guy like the Yankees have had a specialty in doing in recent past years, sort of accompany Devin and Bednar in the back end of the bullpen. And there's just some middle relief. I mean, I would, again, bring Tim Hill back. I definitely would do that. I'm pretty sure Fernando Cruz is going to be back. I'm pretty sure he's under another pre-arbitration year for the Yankees. So I would love to see him return, and I think he will be there. So, I mean, he could definitely still be a part of that back end, too. Like, he could be amongst, like, the 7th inning guy, or if you need him for the 8th or 9th, like, depending on the day. Like, I think that'd be good. But just get a couple more relievers. That bullpen needs help. It does. So just a few early ideas I'm marinating with about the bullpen, too. I'll probably have more in the coming weeks, but just some early things I'm throwing around in my mind. But those are a lot of things that I would do with the team. I would prioritize getting some of those Japanese names, either Murakami or Okamoto, and look to the bullpen. Those are massive priorities for me. And even just look into the rotation with what I was talking about, how they're starting out, but still thinking that especially for when they return, I don't think you need to do that much work at the rotation. I really don't. So that's the deal with that. The only real other piece of news that I wanted to talk about before getting to a really brief social media segment, because I posted it a bit like close to the show as well. So not too much to go in on. I just really wanted to hear a few thoughts on what some other people are prioritizing for the Yankees this offseason, what they think they should tackle the most. But I mentioned Volpe before and how I'm just done with him. It's important to mention, too, that there's more nonsense regarding him. It's not necessarily his fault. I'm just saying it's just regarding him. It just happens to be him and his name coming up. But just some important news to hit on as well, because it is affecting possibly how his 2026 begins, too. So it's important to mention it for the start of next year. But he also apparently underwent surgery on or around the time of October 15th for that partially torn labrum that I mentioned again before, after Boone and the Yankees said it probably wouldn't require surgery. Now he got surgery. Oh, well, listen, I guess it's nice that they didn't make themselves look even dumber than they already are by doing what they've also done plenty, and that's waiting until December or January, or maybe even right before spring training reporting dates to have this kind of surgery done for certain guys. We've seen that plenty of times before.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yeah, they definitely do suck when they do that. They really do. But we've seen that plenty of times before. But anyways, regarding the surgery and the timeline of recovery, original reports said that they expect him to be ready for the 2026 season. But then Boone at his presser a couple of weeks ago said that he might not be. Oh my gosh, I have never... This is what I mean when I just say sometimes I really cannot stand the Yankees, man. I really can't. I've really just become so fed up with them in recent years. I mean, this is just another dart on the board as to why, but I've just never seen a more clueless organization regarding injuries. I know they're not doctors. They have a special team of doctors. But, I mean, a few other things too, but especially the injuries, man. It's actually insane. I mean, no one expects perfection, but with their financial well-beings and capabilities and thereby their resources that they have at their disposal as a result of their financial capabilities, I mean, you'd think that they'd be a little better with this, bro, being a little bit more accurate and informative. Like, especially after how many years they've spewed inaccurate injury information for a bunch of different guys, you would just think, I'm beating a dead horse at this point. Listen, I wish Volpe were playing elsewhere, but I've made my thoughts and reasoning for that more than clear, I think, so we don't have to get into it again. I even spoke about it earlier on this very episode once again, so let's not get into all of that. See how his recovery goes, since I'm sure we'll be stuck with him again next year. Like I said before, lucky us. They'll use this injury as the excuse, some people will say, even though others like Boone have said they didn't think it was a reason that he sucked so bad. But especially for the defense, considering, it might have affected some diving and some range, but if he was ranging to his right, using his left arm, which is where the partial tear happened in his left shoulder, but it wasn't even in his throwing arm. So there's only so much that could have affected his throws that were so horrible throughout most of the year. It wasn't even in his throwing arm. I'm sure some people will find a way to use it as an excuse to give him yet another chance. We'll see. But that's the latest on him. More back and forth. More people sounding like they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what will happen with him. It's great. More of the same. That's why you just feel like you're going crazy and you're insane when it comes to the Yankees, and you wonder if it's you. Because the way that they always gaslight everybody with God knows what, we have infinite examples of gaslighting at this point from day to day throughout many seasons in the recent past. But they make you feel insane a lot of the time because of it, because what is the definition of insanity at the end of the day? It is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And the Yankees, with them, you just feel like you're in a time loop. So there's that. But we'll see what happens with that. And the Yankees overall in the offseason. Plenty of time to go to see what they do. Obviously, there's so much to go even in the offseason. Like in the coming weeks, we'll be getting the award winners for the MVP, Silver Slugger, all the awards out there, Manager of the Year, Gold Gloves, everything. So that's in the coming weeks too. We'll be looking out for that and what each and every team's going to be doing. And obviously, you got the winter meetings in December. Those are always exciting. That's my favorite time of the entire offseason. Can't wait for that. Those will all be in the coming weeks. We'll see what happens. And we'll have plenty of time to continue to decipher the Yankees roster and talk about what we think they should do in certain areas. But I wanted to get a few thoughts in a social media segment for this week, because it's been forever since we did a social media segment, really. And just wanted to go through a few thoughts from some of you out there, what some of you think the Yankees should do. What are some of the top priorities in your eyes that they should tackle for themselves this coming offseason? What do you think about that? And that was the open-ended question for this week's episode. What's priority number one for you that you feel the Yankees should address this offseason? I said all of my priorities, really, but, number one, I would really, for starters, I would look into getting Murakami and or Okamoto, to be honest. If it weren't for that, I would definitely say probably Bellinger. I know a lot of people have said Kyle Tucker as well. I expect to see that in the replies. But we'll see. I definitely think if they are to get Kyle Tucker, that kind of takes away the need to bring back both Bellinger and Trent, part ways with at least one of them, or even, I don't know, maybe both of them. You have to see. But because then, especially if you bring Jones up and you still have Jason Dominguez around, how many friggin' outfielders are you going to have, right? So it gets a little tough at that point. But I would like to see them at least start out with, especially because they have more of a limited window than your usual free agents or trading options have throughout the offseason. But I'd like to see them hone in on, one of the Japanese guys, first off. That's what I would like to see personally. Or even if they address other areas of the infield like shortstop. Anything like that. Because I do still think they have a lot of outfield options presented. I would still look at a couple of infield improvements. Let's start with @Crusaders BBNY saying re-sign Belly or get Tucker. There's the emote. There it is. With our number 1 and number 3 starters not around for the opening season, possibly getting another starting pitcher as well. Shortstop is an issue, but you already know Boy Wonder is getting a pass and he'll be there in the late spring. Unfortunately, you're probably correct. Yeah. But yeah, the outfield, listen, I get if that's people's number 1 priority. I wouldn't hate it if that were the number 1 priority. I just would also hope that the Japanese guys, at least one of them, are in there as well to help improve the infield. And even if there are outfield reps necessary, I'm pretty sure it was Okamoto that could do that if need be as well. So, you know what? That works. I definitely would like to see Bellinger back. at the very least for the outfield. That's for sure. But the starting rotation, yeah, I'll disagree on that one. I definitely see if you would just want to get someone temporary. But I don't know. At that point, I might give, Yarbrough another chance at it, to be honest. I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't want to hear, the Yankees settling for lower scale guys. So, yeah, listen, if you want to get another starting pitcher for the time being, fine. That's cool, I guess. I definitely think that at least to start, you'll still have, Fried, Heel, Warren. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a little weird because you're without Cole and Rodon now. I mean, you'll also have Cam Schlittler. So, I mean, listen, I think you still have a decent rotation with that. So, I mean, you definitely still have at least Fried and Schlittler. That's a solid 1-2 to start the year, if you ask me. And you have Heel as 3. That's not the worst to start. You have Warren as 4. And if you want to get maybe another sort of mid to lower rotation option for the time being, but I mean, they're saying Rodon could be back by late April. So it's not that much time. I mean, I think you could get by, at least for the time being, with doing Fried, Schlittler, Heel, Warren, and then maybe just having a Ryan Yarbrough or someone of that type to round it out with a fifth starter if need be. I think that'd be fine. I'm not that worried about it. It's the aspect of the rotation that I'm least concerned with, is the starting rotation. And then you get Rodon back. That'll fill it out. Then whoever, lower end, a Yarbrough, if you have in there, you could throw back in the bullpen if that works. And then Cole's going to be back eventually, so that's another addition. The rotation is pretty freaking good at that point. And you can't expect too much from Cole off rip, because obviously he will have been gone for a very long time. Since he got his Tommy John surgery, you don't want to put too much on his shoulders right away. But it'll be still towards sort of the beginning part of the season there, so it won't be too much pressure. It's not like they'll be in the middle of a playoff chase, but you get what I'm trying to say. So rotation's still probably towards the bottom for me. All right, who's next here? Up next, we have got at Dr_Fred_Davies says, I think I'll only be satisfied if the Yankees sign Tucker, Bregman, Valdez, and Alonso. That'd be like a B or a B- offseason. Yeah, that much is not happening, my guy. Sorry to tell you. I don't know. I don't know if I want a Valdez around after what he pulled with his catcher there. I don't know. I don't know if I want that lack of a team guy around. Alonso, to be honest, I mean, yeah, that'd be nice in some ways. I just don't see him leaving the Mets personally. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening. And just full disclosure, I'd rather the Yankees get somebody new. We know Goldschmidt's probably not going to be back, nor should he be. I'd rather them get an Okamoto or a Murakami. Maybe Ben Rice platoons there whenever he's not catching. I think first base could be occupied by others, to be honest. Again, I wouldn't hate Alonso. Definitely wouldn't. But I'd like the Yankees to go in another direction at this point. I was looking more at Alonso for last offseason. I think it would have been a much more expected and believable fit for that. But now I want the Yankees to sort of go in another direction. Tucker, everybody's talking about. Yeah, we'll see what they do with that. Bregman, I don't see Bregman happening. Sorry. I do not see it happening. But that'd be wild. Really wild. Rebecca at Peace Now for Life says, hi, Mike. Glad you're back this week. Good to be back. Thanks, Rebecca. Priority number 1 is signing Bellinger or Tucker. Or they could be the Yankees of old and sign both. Can't wait for the show. Thanks, Rebecca. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that'd be freaking crazy. That'd be wild. I don't see them doing that. Those Yankees are gone, man. They're gone. At DKJ4BGCV2J, you got to change that handle, my guy. Says, someone who can hit, please. Bo Bichette or Tucker. Thanks, Mike. You're a good man. Thank you, dude. You're a good man, too. Yeah, some people are mentioning Bo. Even my brother has said. My brother, he said that he wishes they would throw a big bag at Bo Bichette. I mean, I don't think they'll do it, but we'll see. And again, another Tucker mention. A lot of people want Kyle Tucker. That'll make what they do at the outfield and Spencer Jones and the like, Jason, and how they arrange it all, especially if they also bring back Bellinger. I mean, that'd be very interesting to see what the Yankees do if they were to get Tucker. At When You Wish _ says, new relief pitchers. Finally, somebody says it. Jeez, where are the bullpen people? Oh, man. So, yeah, finally, a mention of the bullpen necessities. My God. All right. Final two as per usual. First up is my fiance, Victoria, at Vic Salimo. And she says, I really think they need to focus on the bullpen. Too many games were blown last year in big spots. Yeah, more bullpen recognition. I am in full agreement with that, obviously. I am surprised that wasn't said a little bit more. There are other replies that I'm not able to get to, but still surprised it wasn't said a bit more. Last but not least is my mom, at Julia Gina Scudero, and she says, hi, Mike, welcome back. Thanks, Mom. Your show is so missed. What a World Series. Can we say first priority is to kick Cashman and Boone off a cliff? Okay, seriously, the Yankees need to sign Murakami or Okamoto. Re-sign my boys Trent and Cody as well. Maybe another starting pitcher to help out until Cole and the others return. That's about it. Thanks, Mike. Surprised no mention of the bullpen. Again, I'm surprised there was no more mention of that with others as well, really. Cashman and Boone off a cliff, that'd be great. It'd be great. But yeah, Murakami or Okamoto, would friggin' love that. Trent and Cody, we'll see if that happens, if they don't get someone like a Kyle Tucker, for instance. We'll see. It'll be interesting. And another mention of the starting rotation. It's interesting. I don't know. I trust them to get through that first month or so without Rodon, and then maybe a little bit after that, Cole will be back. But I trust them to get through that. I do. The rotation was so good this past year. It really was. So, but hey, listen, if you want to get a lower end, I don't think that'd be a horrible thing. It's just towards the bottom of my list of priorities personally. Well, guys, I think that about does it for episode 267 today. I think it's a good way to kick off the 2025 offseason, wouldn't you say? A lot more to go over, a lot more to anticipate and talk about as the weeks go on and the hot stove editions start and more discussion heats up, and we'll be here talking about it throughout the winter. You know that. But as of right now, I think that's a good way to kick off the offseason and end episode 267 today. A few of the usual reminders, as always. Be sure to follow me on all socials, Mike Scudero NY on Facebook, at Mike Scudero on Twitter or X, and Mike Scuds97 on Instagram. Subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all four of the platforms it is available on if you have not already. That's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment, wherever you may be listening to show your love and spread the word. And if you've missed any past Yapping Yankees episodes, episode 1, all the way back in 2019, like we talked about, all the way up to today's episode 267. You can find every single one of them on Apple, Spotify, or SoundCloud. If you're more of a YouTube listener, like I tend to be, that's okay too. Just know that I didn't start uploading on there until episode 34. Random number, I know, just go with it. Episodes 34 up to 267 today are available on there on YouTube if you prefer that. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today, my good friends. As always, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again in a couple of weeks on Sunday, November 16th, I believe it may be. If anything changes, I'll let you know on social media, obviously. But for now, we'll keep it at Sunday, November 16th, when I come at you with episode 268 of Yapping Yankees. But until then, guys, hang in there. Be patient. Please stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week once again, like I always tell you to do, my friends. And once again, just wanted to say happy anniversary once more to my lovely fiancée, Victoria. A bit different this time around, obviously, since we just got engaged about a month ago. Actually, a month ago in 2 days. Crazy how time flies. But a bit different this time around, but happy anniversary once again to her. Sad to see baseball go once again. Never gets easier every single year. Still don't really miss the Yankees specifically, but it's always tough to see baseball go. I'll miss the Yankees in a couple of months, but they, with all the heartbreaks, I'm okay without them for a little while now these days, more so than years prior. But sad to see it go, especially after the conclusion of such a wild World Series. But it was amazing nonetheless. Congrats again to the Dodgers. And we'll see how this offseason continues to progress in the coming weeks. What kinds of discussions continue to heat up. Who wins what awards in the coming weeks. How the winter meetings go in December. All of it. It only gets clearer and clearer the deeper we go into the offseason. And it has only just begun, as today, again, is actually just the first day of it. We'll see how it all goes, guys. But for now, we shall yap again in a couple of weeks. Until then, take care, and let's go Yanks.